everybody. I am joined by Maria Kanellis. You know her from her work with Ring of Honor, WWE, Impact, all around the world. You've been featured as a wrestler, as a manager. Now you have a new role with Ring of Honor. You're on the board of directors. You're helping oversee the return of Women's Wrestling Wednesdays on Ring of Honor. We're going to talk a lot about your new role, what goes into that, what we saw this week with the premiere. How you doing today?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Good. So I wanted to start with talking about your new role. You returned to Ring of Honor not too long ago. You started as helping with the Experience Facebook page. Now you're taking a more I guess executive role is the way to put it. You have a more of a hands-on role. It seems like more using your voice more to show what the return of women's wrestling to Ring of Honor is going to be like. As I mentioned, you're on the board of directors. And what do you like? What was the original pitch to come back to the company? Because was it always for the women's tournament?
Yeah, I think that Ring of Honor knew that whatever I was going to do next in my career was going to be to help others more. And working with the women's division was the first thing that popped in my mind. And then when I talked to them about it, they were like, yes, that's what we want. So it all just came together. When I first was released, I didn't even know if I was going to come back to wrestling because we didn't know we didn't know, like, is this going to be, a couple months thing? Is this going to be a few years? Um, Mike and I, my husband and I, we talked about just me taking a step back completely and using my degree and going into another field, and then him just going on the road for months at a time to not bring virus home with him. So there was a lot of things that were coming into play. So when we got around to having this conversation with Ring of Honor, instantly it was something to work with the women, have more of a backstage role, to bring the women's division back into Ring of Honor. So that was right off the bat. That's what I wanted to do, and that's what they wanted me to do.
And one thing I did want to mention is, if anybody didn't know about it, you do have your degree from Johnson and Wales University.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations on that. I know it's
Thank you.
not easy going back to school, so congratulations for that. But
Thank you. Yeah, it was one of those things after I was released from WWE. I wanted to have my degree. I wanted to finish. So I ended up going back. I got a degree in sports entertainment event management. I have been accepted to get my MBA. I had started it last year. I plan on working on that this fall, after things kind of calm down a little bit, after the tournament. So, yeah, I mean, that was a really important thing for me to do.
and then I do know you were starting to and this was all before COVID, but you were starting an event planning business.
Mm-hmm.
So how did those two experiences really help ease you into or bridge the gap between being an on-air performer and now what you're doing with Ring of Honor for the women's division and the experience?
So for me, I had started my event planning company a couple of years ago. I've been doing it for about almost 5 years now. But when COVID hit, I had to take a step back from it. We haven't really done any events because the last thing I wanted was to be in an event that became like a super spreader event. And that just doesn't, I wouldn't want to ever do that. But having that, you learn to deal with people. You are really hands-on with event planning, especially for weddings, because it's a very personal event. Just like women's wrestling careers. When you're bringing in a woman to have a match or to have them stay long term, you have to remember they're still human beings. This is their career. This is their livelihood. This is their passion. And you have to keep that in mind. So in that sense, dealing with brides and working with women in wrestling, I do use those experiences to help guide me, but also with my degree in sports entertainment event management, it's a little bit of everything that I learned, everything from HR to budgeting to writing out an event day script, from opening and closing of an event, from load in and load out. I think my final, one of my final projects was 75 pages long, because it was everything. It was running a giant arena. So you learn about the ins and outs of all of that. But the best way to learn is experience. And so I'm learning on a daily basis with my new role. And it's very important to me to have open communication, and to be a sponge and to want to learn.
How important is it? And I mean, I know this is probably early to say, but how important is it for you to establish uh not a protocol, but like your identity as an executive, as a board member, so that you can almost set a precedent for maybe somebody else that wants to do that in the future? Because uh you've seen the conversation many times over the years, and it's becoming more prevalent, but like women are feeling like they are phased out of wrestling. And uh Taylor Wilde said in one of her podcasts about being on the wrong side of 30 and feeling like women, once you hit a certain age, like, okay, your in-ring's done, but what's the next step for you? And you're seeing Madison Rain was producing and doing commentary, and Gail Kim is doing that with Impact. And I talked to Alley Cat a couple weeks ago, and she produced her own show as part of the collective. And it's like all of these behind the scenes roles are there, but like, what do you think was holding people back from either trying to do them early on, or do you
The
think that
hardest thing is for people to visualize things, and to be able to see themselves in different roles, or for the people in management to see a woman in that role because they hadn't seen it before. What does that look like? Having a woman come in to produce her own show, or having a woman come in to work with heels at AEW, or what does it look like to have Madison producing and writing? What does that look like? And once those things are starting to be established, it becomes easier. I mean, I talk about Renee because you all of a sudden seeing a woman at commentary talking about wrestling in more of a business sense rather than backstage as a wrestler. So that's really important because now the fans can see a different side of women in wrestling. So this is a gradual process. There have been a lot of women in the past that have helped out with these things, that have worked through these things, but they haven't been as visual. So it's finding those people, whether it be Madison or whether it be Renee or whether it be Gail, and honing in on that, and how are they doing it, and how are they representing themselves, and trying to do that same thing in my own way.
And you have another one of those names in Mickey James, who has been vocal about wanting to help out. And I don't want to gloss over what she said. I would just encourage people to go watch what she had to share on GAW TV this past week. But it's strange to me, and I know I may be in a unique situation because I mean, for example, I live in a house full of women, so I'm more understanding and accepting of, hey, it's just like it's a normal thing. Whereas I don't know, sometimes I just feel like there shouldn't be as much shock value in the good old boy business part of it still being around. But
so I hear it a little bit back in my day kind of stuff, and it doesn't work anymore. That just it doesn't work in our society nowadays because there's too much other things going on. There's social media, Twitter and Instagram and YouTube. So now women and men and wrestling fans and talent, we see a lot more. about what is out there. So that good old boy kind of mentality doesn't work. Um, there's a way of protecting the business that doesn't mean being a dickhead. Like, you don't need to be like that. You can protect the business and not be an asshole. Um, and it's called respect. And luckily, like I've always had in Ring of Honor, they respect me, I respect them, and we just do our work. And eventually, I don't want them to see me as a girl or a she. I just want them to see me as another employee that's doing her job really well. And that is when I know that I have succeeded. When I'm no longer looked at as a girl, and I'm just looked at as a person doing their job.
I'm going to ask for your opinion as the board member. As I mentioned before, Women's Division Wednesday just kicked off this week. We saw the first match in, it was almost 2 years between the women's division. And I mean, what are your thoughts on the reception so far about just having women's wrestling back? Because before the pandemic, it was supposed to be the pure championship tournament and the women's championship tournament. And we've seen what almost like a kick in the ass, if that's okay to say, but the pure division has really like given fans another vested interest in Ring of Honor. So what do you think about the reception to Women's Division Wednesday? And what do you think it can be for the company the rest of this year?
It's been fantastic. I mean, I'm super excited to see the fans' reaction. The fans, like I had said on Twitter, I think earlier today, the fans are the megaphone. They are the ones that are getting the word out there, especially with the show on YouTube. And I feel as if they've taken really well to it, to see 4 brand new faces in Ring of Honor, to see a really good match where everybody had an opportunity to show what they could do, and it went to time. And I genuinely was surprised when it was time. I was like, what? Like, and because I was so invested in the match, and I feel like fans felt the same way of like, oh, it's time. And that's exciting to me. And for the rest of the year, you're going to keep seeing these brand new matches on Women's Division Wednesday. You're going to see them on television. You're going to see them in the tournament. You're going to see them on pay-per-views once we get the tournament going. So like, this is going to become a major part of Ring of Honor, as big of a part as the pure division was. So as soon as this tournament gets going, we're going to have as much of a spotlight as the pure division did. We're going to give it as much care as we did the pure division. So that's really exciting for the girls, because they're going to have that time to show off their craft. They've worked hard. Let's see it.
And I think one of the other cool things about this, the presentation of it is, you have I'll specify the 4 ladies that debuted last night. You have Hyen, Laney Luck, Roxy, and Max the Impaler. All have their own respective followings. Like, I thought that was really cool, where I maybe not know all of their work as a whole, but I know their names. I kind of know, like, oh, I've seen them work for title match wrestling in Texas, and I know kind of where they've worked before, instead of just having like these brand new fresh faces, like, and spending time to build them up. They already have sort of a following. Do you feel like that, like, how involved were you in the talent selection process with putting maybe this match or just names in the tournament?
So this group was chosen before I came completely into my role. So I didn't have any say in these particular 4. Would I have chosen that? Of course. Like, they're all very talented. And moving forward, even though like some matches will be from January, Some matches will be from last month. So some girls I had a hand in picking and some I did not moving forward. But there's so much talent. It is very difficult. It is very difficult to choose. And it's, you're putting all these pieces together because they've got huge fan followings. They do a certain style of wrestling. And then you're putting them against someone like Max the Impaler, who definitely has another, a different side of wrestling. And then you've got Roxy, who reminds me so much of Deanna and Nikki and like that style of wrestling, that, you're looking at this group and there's just a very different feel to them. And moving forward, it's going to be the same thing where you're meeting faces that you kind of know from indies, and they've got a following, and then their style of wrestling is being put up against another style of wrestling.
Anything I know we're going to find out more names as we go each week, but anything that you are particularly excited for fans to get a chance to see once it debuts? Not, I won't ask a person, but like, is there a match that like you kind of saw and you were like, oh man, this is really gonna like catch on, or just anything in particular you're really proud of?
Yes.
As far as like overseeing this?
Yes, there is. And it should be happening in the next couple of weeks. And because we have our schedule laid out for at least the month of May right now. So I know which ones are coming up. And yes, and it's two people. One is she's a known champion, and she is incredibly talented. Her story is fantastic. And then there's another that spent a ton of time outside the country, working on her craft. And the two of them coming together and the match that they were able to create is really something I'm excited for, and something that they should be proud of. I'm also excited about doing these Zoom calls with the girls to let them know that they're going to be in the tournament and giving them this ticket to gold, because they didn't know before I called them. So you're going to see these calls, and some of them are like, they're not at home and they're like, they're disheveled, or so that's very funny to me too, because I wanted their reaction. I want the fans to be able to feel their emotion and like the things that I get to experience, because now I have this position. I want the fans to have it too, because that's fun. And that's what Ring of Honor is about, is, peeling back the curtain a little bit, because this is so athletic based, that and so sports based, that you get to see that, but you also get to see the real side of these individuals.
I'm very much looking forward to that. I know some stuff about Zoom calls goes viral for the wrong reason or funny reason, but honestly, I've been a part of some of these, like just doing this for my job, and it's kind of funny how sometimes people forget. They'll like pick up the phone, they're like, oh hey, what are you doing, like where am I? Oh wait, I'm on video, I can't just talk to you. And just getting that genuine reaction is like really, it's genuine, it's enjoyable.
You can see what people really care about, like and that is what you see in the ring, is what are they fighting for, what is really important to them, and doing these Zoom calls in this way, like I feel like you get a little taste of that. Mm-hmm. And we're next week will be the first one, and then we'll go from there. Some of them are going to be great. Some of them I'm sure are going to be freaking awful. Like, you're going to be like, all right, well, maybe we'll scrap that one, but maybe it'll be so awful it's good. I don't know. This is fun.
I think we're all finding out that you're being challenged, especially this past year, to be creative, put yourself out there, and maybe this is another way that people become more endearing, or they catch on, and maybe they make a fan by one of those awful phone calls or whatever. But I
Some
want
of them have like these fancy backgrounds and like they've got like all of their equipment, like, and other ones are like just chilling on their phone. It's so fun.
Yeah, I have my lovely green screen, so
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. This room that I'm in was our virtual schoolroom slash my office slash the toddler
Everything.
tears everything apart, and now I kind of have it back. So
Oh yeah, I do all of my interviews in my bedroom because my bedroom is the quietest room in the house,
mhm.
with two kids, and there's windows everywhere, and I have my little light as well. So like the lighting is nice, so I'm always like super comfy, chilling in my bed, like talking to people. So
Yeah, this year I didn't really. I was like, oh, what's the purpose of a ring light? And then I found out this year, like, oh, it actually makes you look better. So
uh-huh.
I wanted to circle back and talk about your career a little bit. When you started in wrestling, you obviously started with WWE, part of the Divas era, and uh, went to Ring of Honor, went to Impact, went back to WWE. Even though you started with WWE, do you feel like coming back to Ring of Honor is like a full circle moment, even though it's not where you started?
Yeah, I when I first started at WWE, I thought that was it. Like that's the only place in the world that you can work. I was also 22 and from a small town, and I didn't have a whole lot of worldly view. So while I was there, I started learning about other wrestling companies, and being in Ring of Honor, the first time around really opened my eyes to what it's like to have a little bit more creative freedom, and to find myself. And that was the biggest thing for me is and that's what changed my career so much and the trajectory of it, because then I found a totally new character that I could be, and was able to broaden out in that sense. And so then now being back in Ring of Honor and being able to give this opportunity to others, it's great. Like it does feel full circle. It seems like this is where I'm supposed to be.
I know you've defended it before, and I don't necessarily think I agreed with it, but the perception that you portrayed a dumb character in WWE, I feel like it was more like an evolution, and I saw it for what it was. It was a character on TV, and that's not representative of you. But then when you started in Ring of Honor, you were the first lady and very proper. And do you feel like there's also those parallels in your first WWE stint to the second one compared to the first Ring of Honor run and the second one, where it's more of an evolution and
Mm-hmm.
people shouldn't I don't even know if that's the right way. Like people shouldn't expect you to be that character the whole time, but it's more just showing progress, and they should come along for the ride with you instead of expecting what they've already seen.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we're all growing up together. You're seeing me grow up, everybody. Like and that's really at the end of the day what it is I came in as a very young girl, and I played a very ditzy character, and I grew from there, and then it's transitioned again and again. And I've been asked many times as of late, like, how have I been able to evolve and stick around in wrestling this long? And I think because I don't take myself too seriously. It's like, all right, well, we did that. Okay, that's cool. And then we'll move on. From whatever that character was. I don't hate the years. Like I don't hate the fact that I'm getting older, and that wearing the tiny little lingerie does not look the same as it did when I was 22. That's okay. It's cool. My husband thinks I'm better now. So that's all that matters at the end of the day, as far as that department. So yeah, we should just all enjoy this ride together. It's crazy, but it's fun.
I won't. I'm not going to call myself old. I don't think we are yet, but it's kind of funny seeing, like, I'm 35, and when you have that like aha moment of Wow, I remember thinking when I was 25 or 21, like, oh, I'll never be like that. And then when it happens, you're like, that moment of realization, and you're like, oh yeah, it's not that bad.
No, I mean, I'm going to be 40 next year. So, and this is my 17th year in the industry. So, like when I first started, I was like, oh, well, I'll be done, retired at 30, probably live in a mansion in Los Angeles. I won't ever have to work again. And then I got to 30 and I was like, wait a minute, that's not going to work. Like, I might have been able to like retire in a cardboard box or something, but like yeah, no, life happens and we're just on this wild ride. It's like when you go and you ride the bull at like the bar. That's basically what life is.
Either hold on or you get thrown off and
Yeah, and
get
then
back on the
you
bowl.
get thrown off. You're not dead. You're fine. You get back on. All right, here we go. Drink a little bit more. You'll be fine. It's just that's life.
Uh, one other way you have evolved is just being separate from Mike for the most part. Like I thought one thing that was really nice was that you guys just re-signed contracts. They were announced separately. It
Mhm.
wasn't Mike and Maria Bennett, or
Yeah.
Maria and Mike Kanellis, or how whatever order you want to list them in, but it was Mike Bennett, Maria Kanellis Bennett, and you were the power couple for many years. You were in the kingdom. You were always an on-screen couple. Like
Mhm.
now you're doing your own respective things. He's busy with OGK. And how important was that coming back? Just, I mean, maybe to Ring of Honor or in general to have your own identity, and how, after having it came after not only a successful run on your own before you guys met, but it also came after a successful run in Ring of Honor and all, Ring of Honor, Impact, and WWE.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Mike is very interested in doing a singles run as well as his work with OGK, um, because he's getting to that point in his life that he wants to see what he can do and if he can still keep up with the guys. And I know that he's very interested in the Pure title, and it's about those challenges and it's about growing. It was important for us to work separately. I wanted to work with the women's division as much as I love working with the OGK. I'm sure it'll happen again. I'm sure I'll end up doing something with them at some point. But right now, my focus is on the women's tournament and on the women's division. Um, so yeah, and I think after spending almost a year together in quarantine because of COVID, I think working separately has been lovely. So, but that's, that's relationships and that's working together. We worked together for a long time. Now we're going to do something different. Then we'll work together again. So, that's just how it goes.
I absolutely understand where you're coming from about being stuck in quarantine together, and I will leave it at that.
And you have young kids like that. That adds to it too, because you can't be your own person when you have young children. You're the snack person. You're basically
Mhm.
like a chef all day long with
Yep.
young children. Whether that means you're whipping up some goldfish or a drink, it's just constant.
Or
So,
or you start eating their snacks too.
oh yes, the other day I was like, wait a minute, what am I doing? I don't even like this. And I'm trying to get him to eat something and I'm eating it too. And I'm like, what? But that's what happens. And to find yourself as an individual is very important. Have that space in your mind of like, this is me.
I'm going to close with this. This started as like a pandemic playlist, and it's kind of evolved. But is there a match that you've either wrestled yourself or been a part of that you really feel like is representative of your work in the wrestling business?
Ooh,
I know it's big picture, but
no, I
it's kind of vague, but
that I've been a part of. Um, I don't know if there's I don't know if there's a match, but there is the wedding segment in Impact that I think is probably the biggest growth of my career. Um, because so many people still talk about it. That and when the boys won the IWGP tag team titles in New Japan. So I think that those two moments are really like, at least in my own head, are defining moments of my career. And the Evolution match. I mean, the the match at Evolution and being able to work with such an incredible group of women and my daughter sitting out in the crowd, like, oh, so good. But yeah, so I don't know if it's necessarily a match, but there are moments that I think are representative of uh my career as a whole.
Normally, I would pitch it as, is there a match in the women's division coming up? But we're all going to have to wait and see what that is every Wednesday. But the wedding segment, I know is online. They put the whole entire thing up, so that probably is the best wrestling wedding segment there's ever been. I know we had the one where Johnny Bravo got shot this year, but that one in particular was uh it was amazing. Like everything went right. Like, you played your role to perfection. And then with Allie and Braxton, and I'll have to, the evolution's probably on.
Chelsea and Allison Kay. I mean, and Allison just so subtle with her like eye movements and just it was so, and Mike just drunk the whole time. It was just, yeah. I mean, and Madison produced that. So that's another really important thing to me is like witnessing her producing it. It really inspired me. Just to see a woman in that position was inspiring to me.
And hopefully some of the women that are working with you right now have some of the same inspiration by taking cues from you. As I mentioned, you guys can check out Women's Division Wednesdays every week on Ring of Honor. Maria, you can catch on Ring of Honor's The Experience. I'm really excited to see what you keep continuing to get a chance to put your fingerprint on, whether it's The Experience or the Women's Division, or we see you come back on screen. I feel like not enough credit is given to you for your contributions to the wrestling business. And I've wanted to do this for a long time because I appreciate your work. I appreciate your opinions about your work, and thanks for your time.
Thank you. You have a fabulous day.